It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Oh, wow. It's the weekend, baby. It's Sunday morning. It's nighttime out. All right. A little technical error, guys. I do have a show on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern time. But it is Tuesday night right now. It is 9 o'clock or so. And it's been one hell of a day if you invest like I do. So the Dow Jones now is approaching 50,000. Again, I'll make this point till I'm blue in the face. Go back to April 2nd of 2025, Liberation Day. The tariff war begins. And President Trump is being told that you're going to send this country into recession. You are going to make the stock market crash. It's going to be 2008 all over again. Well, by April 4th, if I'm looking at my chart correctly, the Dow Jones was below 37,000. It is since now, it's approaching 50,000. Not very good at math, but I'm pretty sure that it's up nearly 25% since April 2nd. So you could have gone two ways on that day. You could have said, oh my God, let me take all my money out. Or boy, this might be a good time to buy, because everybody like Paul Krugman from the New York Times and every analyst on CNBC is telling me that, wow, we're going to head to a recession. I better get my money out now. Or maybe this is a good time to buy because maybe Trump knows what he's doing with the economy based on his first term when things were quite good. Then Biden screwed everything up. Not Biden, the auto pen, whoever ran the country. 9.1% inflation, spending through the roof. The Inflation Reduction Act, which did not reduce inflation, had quite the opposite effect. Open borders, exhausting every city budget in the country as far as blue cities anyway. Now, the bottom line is that everything is hunky-dory now as far as the economy is concerned. Yet the Democrats, because they have nothing to run on, right? It's Festivus. It's like Seinfeld, right? A show about nothing, an airing of grievances with a sound and fury signifying nothing. So today, it's the Super Bowl. No, not really the Super Bowl. The NFL playoffs haven't even started yet, which is kind of odd because back in the day, we're talking like Super Bowl III, the Super Bowl would basically be this weekend. They used to have like very limited playoffs. Now, like the season's expanding, and I'm telling you, it's going to get to President's Day at one point where you have Monday off as a national holiday, federal holiday, so you can watch the Super Bowl on Sunday and then sleep in on Monday. The most absentee day of the year is the day after Super Bowl in every corporation and company and small business across this country for good reason. So the NFL is aiming for that. Anyway, going off on a tangent here completely, the bottom line is that January 6th is the Super Bowl for the Democratic Party because this is a day where they could point and say that they are the ones who will save democracy and that Donald Trump tried to destroy democracy by stealing an election. Or maybe it was a riot that got out of control, unlike, or actually just like, all the riots during 2020 and the Summer of Love and Black Lives Matter, where countless police officers lost their lives, where businesses were destroyed in places from Philadelphia to obviously Minneapolis, New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And there was just lawlessness across the country. Yet Democrats like to look to this one out-of-control riot. That's what it was. It wasn't trying to overtake democracy. No one's trying to overturn an election. And there's a lot of questions around January 6th to this day that deserve to be answered in terms of like how many FBI guys were in that crowd exactly posing as protesters? And why did so many people, why were they allowed just to walk right into the Capitol and not stopped by police and then only later to be arrested and incarcerated for an infinite amount of time? Like I could go through the list, but I don't know, a lot of questions, but Democrats see this as an opportunity to show that they are the ones who believe in the Constitution, believe in the Declaration of Independence, and believe in democracy. The same party that installed their last presidential candidate in the Coconut Queen, who is Kamala Harris, the cackle heard around the world without one vote from any voter on the Democratic side, or any side for that matter. So over two elections, Kamala Harris has run for president twice and not earned one vote. Yet now she is the leading vote getter in 2028 as far as polls are concerned. But it's a long way out. Obviously, she has name recognition. I think it'll be Newsom, but neither here nor there. Eric Swalwell, who is running for governor of California. You think Gavin Newsom's bad? This clown, right, who only slept with a Chinese spy, literally named Fang Fang. I'm sorry. A girl approaches me in my single days and says, "Hi, we should hang out. My name's Fang Fang. I'm running in the other direction." All right? Fang Fang. That's not exactly, Ava Gardner, right? Marilyn Monroe, Rachel McAdams, to bring it more back to my generations. It's Fang Fang, right? And Fang Fangs are going to do very, very bad things to you, probably. And that could be a good thing on some level. But overall, Chinese, name Fang Fang, probably a spy. Swalwell, too stupid to realize that. Yet, he is still named to all these committees by Nancy Pelosi, despite making a mistake that should have been the end of his career. And now, because Gavin Newsom is term limited, he's running for governor of California. And there's a good chance he'll win because California is that stupid. If you elect Gavin Newsom twice, you are that stupid. Anyway, Swalwell, on the floors of Congress today, declared that 9/11 was as bad or worse than 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. I can't even make that up. In terms of the deaths that we're talking about, 3,000 approximately, 9/11, if you include all the people that got sick after the fact, all those people that ran towards those towers and then afterwards cleaned up all of that mess with all that toxic stew. Many got cancer. So we're talking easily 3,000 plus. Obviously, Pearl Harbor, about 3,000 as well, and dying in the most horrific ways you could imagine. Drowning, trapped in, certain vessels. I mean, just horrible. And then this clown, Swalwell, has the audacity to say that January 6th was just as bad or worse. I mean, California, good luck to you. It's the way things are going right now. We have a red country and a blue country, and it's mostly red with little pockets of blue, right? I guess California is a big pocket of blue. But otherwise, we have a socialist running Seattle. We have a socialist running Minneapolis. We absolutely have a socialist running New York City. But the rest of the country is basically red, right? I mean, outside of the blue cities. So that's what we're going towards at this point. So Swalwell, I love Steve Hilton. He's a former colleague of mine. I hope that he could win there. But again, it's California. It's so blue. And the problem is that the common sense people, the people that had sanity and sobriety, actually moved out of California for places like Florida, Tennessee, Texas, Arizona, Idaho even. Idaho's big now, apparently. I don't know if I could live in Idaho. I mean, I like my good potato. That's good. I'm a skier, yes. But outside of that, I don't know. But I guess low taxes, and you could get, probably like 10 acres that you could get like a studio apartment for in Los Angeles. So not the worst idea in the world. But again, the bottom line is that red states are winning, blue states are losing, and then it's going to be Democratic rule in perpetuity because the only people that stay in blue cities and states are people dumb enough to embrace socialism and therefore will vote for the socialist. Anyway, Jasmine Crockett, however, is running for the Senate. Forget Congress, some safe district. She's actually running for Senate in the state of Texas, the Lone Star State. Don't mess with Texas unless you're Jasmine Crockett, I guess. And she is running in a state that Donald Trump won by 13 points in 2024, right? It almost has no Democratic representation outside of blue pockets in places like Austin, Dallas, and that's where Jasmine Crockett actually has a district for now. And they're actually redistricting there, so she's going to lose her seat. That's why she's running for Senate. I've said this before, I'll say it again. She has no interest in actually winning. She loves the attention. She is the Marjorie Taylor Greene of the left, where if she could get on The View and get on CNN and MSNBC or whatever they're calling that insane asylum now and gets some airtime, then therefore that's good enough. It's like one of the guys who ran for mayor of this city recently on the Republican side. Well, I know I can't win, but hey, I'm getting a lot of attention, so good for me. Just saying. Anyway, here's Jasmine Crockett. This is cut one, saying that, the numbers tell her, what numbers exactly, that she's going to win in the state of Texas without earning one vote from a Trump supporter. No, really, this is cut one. Go.
Listen, what I did is I evaluated the numbers. The numbers are clear that we can win.
No, they're
Texas
not.
is a non-voting state. We are one of the lowest voter turnout states in the entire country, with only about a little bit more than 50% of people turning out to vote. We are also a majority minority state. So for everybody that's like, well, she running for Senate and she black. Yes, I am. I am. And
a majority minority state. So what she is saying is literally the opposite of Martin Luther King and what he said in terms of not judging a person by the color of their skin, but by their character within, right? Not quite the quote, but you get the point. And she's saying that, it's a low voting state. So if enough people don't turn out and know exactly what they're voting for, then maybe I can win. Oh, and by the way, I'll win because every black person and Latino and every minority in the state automatically, because they're robots, right? They're basically trained, like they're under the Jedi mind trick, will vote for somebody based on the color of their skin and not on their character, or more importantly, maybe on their policy positions. She's for open borders. I won't even go down the list. You know who she is. But Jasmine Crockett thinks that she's going to win because every black person is going to vote for a black person, and every Latino is going to vote for somebody who's not white. Ask how that worked out for Kamala Harris, because she kind of thought that she had those votes in the bag. And Donald Trump captured the largest share of the Latino vote and the black vote, at least with the black vote, since Nixon in 1972, and that was a much different country then. So just, again, the fact that that's what she's running on and getting applause from the SEALs in the audience on The View, it's all about that. It's all about the attention, the vanity, the celebrity. And when she loses, guess what happens? Can't go back to Congress, doesn't have a seat. There is a seat waiting for her, however, on The View or MSNBC or CNN or anybody stupid enough to hire this idiot. Idiot. And that's that. Anyway, President Trump did something, again, that took some real brass as far as going into Venezuela, Caracas, a compound heavily guarded by Cuban security forces, had Russian-made military defenses that obviously, again, you can't get to Kyiv in 3 years or 4 years or however long it's been as far as the Russians not being able to get to the capital city of Ukraine. Probably not going to work well against U.S. Special Forces, Delta Force in this case. And a couple of months ago, when asked, the American people who aren't exactly thinking about Venezuela and Maduro, let's face it, a lot of people are in the phones. They're very, very distracted. They got their lives to lead. I don't want to be completely dismissive, but when it comes to foreign affairs, Americans aren't exactly in tune with that because it doesn't affect them, right? Especially when we're talking about South America. So way back when, only 21% of Americans supported Donald Trump going into Venezuela to snatch and grab, in essence, their illegitimate president in Nicolas Maduro. Now, after he's done it, and with such great execution, 0 U.S. casualties to 80 on the other side, whether we're talking Venezuelan security forces, Cuban security forces evidently had a heavy presence as well. Imagine that, 80 to 0. And we get the guy we want. We get out with almost no problems whatsoever. Wow. So this is what CNN is saying about Trump's poll numbers when it comes to this military execution, which was flawless, to get Maduro out and put him on trial. This is cut 2. Go.
Yeah, it's been a dramatic change in a direction that I think the President of the United States will like, because what are we looking at here? Okay, U.S. military ousting Maduro. Pre-ousting, what you saw was the clear plurality of Americans opposed at 47%, just 21% support. Come over to this side of the screen. After the ousting, look at that. The support through the roof. Now we're talking about 37%, well within the margin of error right here of the opposition, 38%. It turns out Americans like what they deem to be successful foreign policy operations. And in this case, they view the ousting of Maduro, at least up to this point, as a successful one, and therefore the support way up.
Boom. 16-point jump in the span of a few days when people said, they learned more about Maduro. They learned about all the Americans he was killing with all the drugs that were coming into this country. And they saw Venezuelans in places like Doral, Florida, and across the country celebrating because they lived under an oppressive dictator for the better part of 25 years and said, you know what, this was the right thing to do. All I know is Joe Biden had a $25 million bounty out on Maduro saying Donald Trump embraces dictators and authoritarians and he'll never do what I will do. Well, sure enough, Biden's in office for 4 years, or whoever was running the country, again, the auto pen, and nothing happened. And Donald Trump, within his first year, has now taken out Iran's nuclear capabilities and taken out a guy who has killed more Americans through drug trafficking into this country than every world war and the Iraq War, Vietnam War, Korean War, name your war from the 20th century, combine all those casualties on the U.S. side. It does not match the number of drug deaths we have had in this country as a result of the likes of Maduro. And Americans more and more are liking what they saw from this president who doesn't talk, he does. Actions speak louder than words, the oldest cliche in the book, but Donald Trump is literally the living definition of that. This is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show on WABC. Back with more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, hearing that news report, if you watch the video from that horrible fire in the Swiss Alps that killed more than 40 people, New Year's Eve, right? You're celebrating, you got some sparklers, you got a glass of champagne in your hand. You think the last thing that's going to happen is that you're either going to die or get trampled over or just in a panic try to escape a fire that gets completely out of control in a matter of just a few minutes. And the thing is, when you watch the video of what happened there, it's obviously an old building. It obviously has walls that are not fireproof. And literally people are taking out their cameras on their cell phones and they're pointing them up at the ceiling where this fire is starting to spread. And it's all kind of a big joke. And you can say, well, they were overserved. Maybe they were a little inebriated. They didn't know what was going on. I think even sober, people would think, I'm not in any kind of danger. There's a fire up in the ceiling. It's a little thing. I can just, if things get out of control, I'll just walk out of the building. That thing spread so quickly that no one knew what happened. And before they could, there's literally, from what I saw from the video, basically like any other bar, I guess, only one way in or out. And you saw people on the ground crawling, trying to get out, and the smoke just overwhelmed them. It's just the saddest thing in the world, where I think we live in a world through our phones, through this untouchable immortality that says that no way on New Year's Eve am I going to die here at this beautiful party in the Swiss Alps when all my friends are around me. I got phones. Obviously there's probably a sprinkler system in here somewhere. Who knows what they were thinking? But in the end, I'm sorry. You see a fire, run. I mean, that's the only thing you could say. It doesn't matter where you are, because these things go from looking benign to completely out of control in a hurry. And now 40 families are just completely devastated as you listen to this tonight. Anyway, let's bring in Carol Roth, shall we? She is the great entrepreneur. She is the great podcaster. She is an old friend of mine, clearly, and knows the economy probably better than anybody else I know, with CNBC forever. She is the two-time New York Times bestselling author of You Will Own Nothing. That was prophetic during the Biden years. That's certainly for sure, maybe prophetic to this day. Carol, how are you?
Well, first of all, I just want to correct you, Joe. I'm not an old friend. I'm a longtime friend.
Oh, I didn't mean it that way.
We just have to put it out there. We're longtime friends. We've known each other since we were babies. Right. We're still babies, right?
I don't think 34 is old. I think to a 24-year-old, 34 is old, but not. Sure. So that's the way it goes. No one could have hair like you unless you're in your 30s. That's certainly for sure. So bravo to Carol Roth. What did you do for New Year's Eve, by the way?
So, I am in downtown Chicago, and I am on the north bank of the river.
Beautiful.
And so we had 2 sets of fireworks, because this is the first year that we were part of the Dick Clark New Year's Rockin' Eve. So we had the river fireworks and the Navy Pier fireworks. So, we had that at our place and got the great view, and were able to ring in what hopefully will be a great 2026, which, by the way, starts out with my Bears, who I know are your Bears
Our
too,
Bears.
with the second seed playing our big rival, the Green Bay Packers, this weekend.
I don't want to go off on a tangent for all the people that don't follow the NFL, and particularly the Chicago Bears, but what disrespect for our team. When you look at the odds of who will go to the Super Bowl at the NFC, we're the lowest outside the Panthers, like 6%. We're the 2 seed, for the love of God. But no one thinks that this young team with a young quarterback can get there. But, I have great faith because I just don't think the competition's all that great.
Well, it is also the 40th anniversary of the 85-86 Bears and the Super Bowl Shuffle. So if you really think that the NFL is scripted, if the Bears and the Patriots end up in the Super Bowl, that's how you'll know. We'll uncover this conspiracy by the time the Super Bowl hits.
46-10 back in 1986 at the New Orleans Super Bowl, of course. Didn't give Walter the ball at the goal line. Again, we could go off on tangents. That's fine. But, we shall see. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great weekend. You got the college football playoffs Thursday and Friday, Miami and Ole Miss, I believe, on Thursday, Indiana, Oregon, which is a long-time Big Ten rivalry, as we know. It's like 3 years, but fine. That's Friday. And then the wild card games on Saturday, including the Bears on Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Sunday, more games. Monday, more games. My wife's not going to like me at the end of all this, but look, it's a fun time of year. But I want to talk about the economy of 2025. I know you weren't crazy about the tariffs that were that whole war started on Liberation Day, April 2nd. The stock market has gone gangbusters since. Do you see any pitfalls as far as 2026 where the ugly side of tariffs come out, or are you sold more that this may have been the right strategy?
So while I don't necessarily agree with the strategy and, think that tariffs should be used only in certain cases of national security, I do think that the bulk of it, the tough part is behind us. And I think the Trump administration, assuming, by the way, that the Supreme Court doesn't rule that they're unconstitutional, because that's something that's going on as well. But I think that they're focused in other places. And certainly one of the places that they're focused is on the global financial order, and they're doing some things that are really, really smart that certainly the Biden administration was never going to do. They were basically making the U.S.'s position in the global financial order weaker, and the Trump administration comes in, realizes that we have national and economic security issues due to natural resources, rare earth elements, and the like, and are doing what they can to shore up relationships, which is long-term smart thinking that we don't usually see. So from that macro backdrop, the other thing is that Trump always telegraphs to us what's going to happen. He says he wants to run the economy hot so that there's everything in his power to try to bring down interest rates. That should be good for the stock market, volatility. But by the end of the year, he is trying to keep the job situation in check, to keep growth growing. And so, that is the expectation, assuming that, something doesn't come in out of nowhere, a gray swan, a black swan, which, seems to always be the case.
That's true. I was on Outnumbered, which is a Fox show that airs at noon. It's basically 4 women and then a guy in the middle. I get to be the guy in the middle. And we had to make our predictions for 2026. And I said a couple of silly things like Zima is going to make a comeback because we all love Zima. And only we got that. Like Tommy Laren's there. She's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, which is kind of funny. She's a little younger. But the point is that I said, in the end, I don't think predictions are a very smart thing to even make at this stage, because in 2016, you would have to tell me on January 1st of 2016 that Donald Trump would be president of the United States, which you'd be like, well, it's been a fun run, but he can't actually win, can he? And sure enough, he did. And then 2020, that's probably the best example. You could never predict on January 1st of 2020 that this weird, virus is going to come in, and it's going to be this pandemic that completely upends the entire world economy and allows Joe Biden to not campaign and win the presidency, scare quotes, over Donald Trump in 2020. So, I think predictions are probably a fool's errand because, to your point, who knows everything looks pretty good right now for the economy and Trump in general as far as foreign policy, but, 1,000 things could happen between now and then.
Yeah, the other thing is that we can look at trajectories and know certain things are going to happen, but it's very difficult to predict timing, which is why it's so hard to time financial markets and why financial advisors always tell you not to try to do that and to invest over the long term and ride out the bumps. So I think that's really a prudent strategy is to look at the trajectories. You know, if you look at something like gold and silver, which last year had incredible years,
oh, yes.
You know, that's something you and I have been talking about forever. And, you know, I knew that there was going to be a break, but certainly didn't know exactly to the dollar, to the penny, and the timing of when that break was going to occur. So I think a lot of times we can talk about the trajectories and the things that are happening, but, you know, some of these micro events and some of the timing is really up in the air. And I guess that's what keeps it interesting and what keeps us employed, Joe.
Exactly. And we're talking to Carol Roth. You Will Own Nothing is a great book. Please do buy it. Make it your 2026 read. Brandon Johnson, all right, let's go, Brandon. The other Brandon is your mayor of Chicago. I've seen approval numbers as low as 6%, primarily in the teens, which, again, Chicago is as blue a city that you could possibly find, and a Democrat there isn't even polling well. The whole socialist thing, from an economic perspective, I don't think he's declared he's a democratic socialist, but he acts like one. He's not, you know, in other words, Mamdani says, I am a democratic socialist, and the mayor of Seattle says the same thing. But Brandon Johnson in Chicago, I mean, can he get reelected given his numbers and just the fact that this guy is a complete clown?
No, absolutely not. And I'm very sorry for you, the folks of New York, who are listening to this, that you didn't take, you didn't learn the lesson that Chicago had learned the hard way, you didn't do it the easy way. You're going down the same hard path. And there's absolutely zero chance that Brandon Johnson will be reelected. If we had an actual real recall strategy, he would be out of here, but it's Chicago, so that's sort of impossible to do. The challenge is we went through this with Lori Lightfoot before Brandon Johnson, and she was, the mayor through COVID. It was just absolutely ridiculous and destructive to the city and had these horrible policies. And we said, we need to get rid of her. You have to be really specific. It's not just get rid of them. It's get somebody better, get somebody with some acumen. If I would have told you, 10 or 15 years ago that, we would all beg for Rahm Emanuel to come back and run the city, you would say, what are you smoking, Carol? But that's the reality that we're in, is that the idea of somebody who was moderate, 15 or 20 years ago is far right now. And common sense needs to prevail. And unfortunately, what these folks are doing is they're running the people who are wealthy and have mobile capital out of the city and out of these jurisdictions, and that means that the middle and working class are having to pay more and more, and life is even less affordable for them. So it's really a huge crisis. Unfortunately, they're very good at putting the blame elsewhere and preying on the economically illiterate.
So why do you think, Carol, so many liberals in blue cities embrace socialism? In other words, I know it's a lot of younger people perhaps, and maybe they don't know about the Soviet Union or Cuba, Venezuela, because they simply don't, educate themselves on it. But what attracts people to? So I get the free stuff, but I got to think these people are smart. A lot of them are college-educated people. What makes them not ask that next question, which is, who's going to pay for this exactly?
I mean, a week ago, I would have probably given you a different answer, but now I'm just going to say fraud. Apparently, in blue cities, anyone can open a daycare or a transportation company or an adult learning center and make, tens of millions of dollars and drive Rolls Royces. So clearly, we didn't get the memo. We were not invited to that party, but that seems to be pretty attractive. When the socialists control all the money, they just dole it out to their people, and it becomes this circle of fraud.
Wow. I mean, in north of you, in Minneapolis, obviously, Carol, from Chicago, is goofy Tim Walz, who is not going to seek a third term. I guess that means either he's going to concentrate on running for president or he's lawyering up what you got your money on.
He wants to spend more time with his family, or maybe he's going to a farm upstate so he can spend time with all the other Tim Walzes. Hard to say. But I mean, there's, the common sense American patriot part of me that says, people need to be accountable for their actions. Somebody's going to step up, hold him accountable. This is going to, open things up and really change things. And then there's the realistic part of me who's seen this, movie many times before and knows how it ends, with it being swept under the rug and the same thing happening over and over again. So I hope and pray that the Trump administration, and particularly their AG, really steps up and, not just this has been uncovered. It's been uncovered, in large part by independent journalists. That now that we see it happening, that there's actually going to be action taken, because one, the people need to be held accountable, and two, there's all of this money that is out there that needs to be reclaimed and brought back so that people who are actually working and doing the right thing are able to live, are able to have an affordable cost of living. And all of this fraud, I saw a post from Elon Musk, I think it was earlier today. He's estimating that, at all the different levels, this could be, close to $750 billion per year at every level. And that is substantial in terms of what that does to cost of living and, of course, to our national debt as well, which is all related and circular. So this is the crisis that is facing our nation now, and there needs to be accountability.
Indeed. And we're talking to Carol Roth, and I cannot end this interview without it being on a lighter note. Obviously, we know our pop culture stuff better than anybody, so I'm going to lay this on you without any practice, any heads up beforehand. No. I'm sure you could reel these off. Your top 5 movies of all time.
Okay, so we've got to have The Godfather.
That's
one. Got to have Goodfellas. You've got to have Trading Places.
Whoa!
Got to have probably 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So you kind of got the Godfather mafia genre. Got to have the humor genre, and then Eddie Murphy is in a class of his own. You could add Coming to America in there as sort of like a consolation prize.
Gotcha. Other receiving votes, as they do in college football. So you rank, if I'm reading this correctly, Godfather over Goodfellas.
I do. I think it's
I go backwards on that one.
It's a more complete movie. It establishes the genre. It's a story about a family business. And the problem that I have with Goodfellas, as much as I love that movie and can consume it, is it kind of goes off the rail at the 11th hour. When you start dealing the coke with the babysitter and running back and forth.
The lucky hat, helicopters.
You kind of turned it off there. And so, yeah.
It goes on for a while, right? And then he gets into witness protection, and I hear you.
Yeah, so you want the old school gangster stuff, and then by the time we get to the 80s, it's just not that interesting.
Right,
but
that's true.
It's still top 5 favorite movies. It's amazing, but if we're saying like a complete movie, it's just not The Godfather.
I just never understood why Henry got so mad. Maybe he was paranoid at that point, or high. But Karen, she had no choice but to flush the coke down the toilet. Yeah, the feds are all over the house.
Yeah,
there's no hiding that.
I think there was a lot of rational decision-making going on there.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Lorraine Bracco, which is – it's amazing because now it's 2026. That movie is 36 years old.
That's incredible. And, by the way, just a little trivia here. Do you know that she read actually for the wife Carmela in The Sopranos and decided that she didn't want that part because it was too close to the Karen part, and so that's why she decided to go for Dr. Melfi.
That was smart, going for Melfi. Mm-hmm. I think you're right, because I would have been like, I'm confused. Are you Karen? Or are you Carmela? And then obviously who they went with, what's her name again?
Edie Falco.
Yeah, Edie Falco, who's a great actress and does a lot of Broadway. That turned out to be the better choice. Trading Places is very interesting because when we think Eddie Murphy, you think Beverly Hills Cop. You think, obviously, you said Coming to America.
Correct.
And I'm thinking of 48 Hours is obviously very good as well. So he turned down the Ernie Hudson part in Ghostbusters, which was a good idea because that wasn't much of a part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bill Murray got every line in that movie.
I mean, he has. I haven't seen the documentary yet, which I really need to because I'm an Eddie Murphy, like, huge fan, back in the day, one of the greatest of all time. Yeah. But, you have to, when you're in that industry, you make trade-offs based on timing, based on what you think is going to be right for your career. And certainly he's made a lot of really great choices. Although Beverly Hills Cop, the standout performance there is Bronson Pinchot as Surge in the art gallery, which if you haven't seen that scene in a while, go pull it up on YouTube, and it will just, 2 or 3 minutes crack you up. All improv, by the way.
Get the fuck! No, not serious. No, I hear you. We could do that all day. That's great. All I know is like Die Hard's in my top 10. I don't know if it's top 5.
Well, it's our Christmas tradition is that we watch Die Hard and we watch Trading Places every Christmas, as we did for the 2025 Christmas season.
Precisely, but they were looking at Burt Reynolds for John McClane. Yeah, they were looking at Tom Selleck. Like they were going to go a little older.
I think I heard something like Clint Eastwood too, like something. No. Somebody like older like that. Which is amazing when you hear these potential casting choices, and then the person who plays it absolutely perfectly, you just can't imagine anyone else.
Right, exactly. Like if you were talking about Shawshank, which is my number 1, you can never have anybody but Morgan Freeman in that role as Red. It just can't. And now he has made an entire career of narrating things since because of the narration in that movie. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You're right. Yes, Clint Eastwood, I just did AI, I got to admit, was considered an approach to play John McClane in Die Hard, but turned it down, reported because he didn't get the gags or the humor in the script. That's very interesting.
I don't make things up when I come on your show. I come here with really deep researched pop culture history, Joe.
Also, Sly Stallone, Harrison Ford, and Schwarzenegger were offered the role of McClane.
Can you imagine Schwarzenegger trying to crawl through the air vent? That would have been amazing comedy.
Come out to the coast, have a few laughs. That wouldn't work, would it? And by the way,
different movie.
Hans is German, and Arnold's Austrian, right? That whole thing wouldn't work. No. They both would sound like terrorists. Oh, man. I could talk about this all night, but I'm being told, cut. Break, Joe. Go already. So, Carol, great conversation as always. I appreciate you joining on short notice, and we will have you back again on the Joe Concha Show soon.
I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Go Bears. I feel jinxed. I feel like, we're too confident in our team right now, I got to say. I'm a Bears fan from, I don't know, I had an uncle growing up who wasn't my uncle. He was like a friend of the family who I thought was my uncle until I was like 23 years old, until the news was broken to me. By the way, Richie Pizzola is not your uncle. Lyndhurst, New Jersey. But a big Bears fan. I went out to Chicago. I'm like, this is my team. Because in New Jersey, when you grow up, particularly in the 80s like I did, there really weren't any Giant or Jets fans. I had one friend that was a Giant fan, and everybody else loved the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Dolphins, like weird teams like the Raiders. Or in my case, I just kind of latched onto the Bears because the Giants and Jets were so profoundly horrible. Like, what am I going to go with? So the Bears won, 85, and I love the Super Bowl shuffle and Fridge Perry and Sweetness and Walter Payton. I love Jim McMahon and the defense, and I said, all right, that's my team. And I actually have stuck with them since. And it's been 40 years since I was a teenager since they won a Super Bowl. But now, number 2 seed, you're telling me that there's really a great team in the NFC, or you're going to tell me that Sam Darnold is going to take the Seahawks to the Super Bowl, given his track record? Sorry, going off on a tangent again. Either way, John Harbaugh, the brother of Jim Harbaugh, was fired from the Baltimore Ravens today, which is amazing to me because this is a guy who's been there for 18 years. He's won 2 Super Bowls with that team. They're always competitive. There's never a bad year for the Ravens. This year, they didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, their kicker missed a field goal in the very, very last second at Pittsburgh in a swirling wind. Can't really blame the kicker per se. You can't really blame the coach then, therefore, either. They would have won the division. They would have gone to the playoffs. He would have kept his job. But either way, I don't think you fire a guy like Harbaugh because, well, who exactly is out there that you're going to replace him with? Given your track record where this guy has been nothing but a success for a Baltimore Ravens team that didn't have their quarterback for half the year. So I don't know. The Giants or the Jets, I'm pretty sure you're trying to get in touch with old John right now because that's the guy you want coaching your team. That is somebody who could stabilize things in a hurry. I'm not saying he's Bill Parcells, but, well, Parcells won 2 Super Bowls and so did Harbaugh. So just saying, that's as close as you're going to get. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show on WABC. We'll wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, this is somewhat breaking here, guys. I mean, this is incredible. President Donald John Trump announced Tuesday that interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 to 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the U.S. The move comes, of course, after U.S. forces on Saturday captured Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife. They're now in New York City. They're facing criminal drug charges. Trump says the oil will be sold at market price, and he will control the proceeds to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. The oil will be transported directly to unloading docks in the U.S. via storage ships. The president said companies like Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil are expected to meet with Trump later this week to discuss the possibility of investing billions of dollars to get the country's operations back up and running. I don't know. If I'm buying stocks right now, I'm kind of looking closely at Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil was trading. I remember during COVID, I asked a friend of mine, I'm like, do you think that Exxon looks like a good buy, right? And he's like, yeah, you should definitely do it. And for whatever reason, I didn't pull the trigger. And it was trading around 44. I think today it's around 150. Way to go, Joe. Then again, I bought NVIDIA and Apple instead. So I guess, things have gone well in that sense. But the point is, the stock market's going through the roof. And I think that any oil, gas, energy company, given where things are going, here's what I know. There are now 10 states in this country where gas, in terms of a gallon of gas, is now being sold at less than $1.50 per gallon. So if you're in Colorado, Utah, Tennessee, Texas, under $1.50 to get a gallon of gas. I remember during Biden, I would fill up my stupid little tank, and I'd hand over like $77 to do it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Now I went for gas yesterday. It's like $38, $39. I mean, New Jersey is still a little too high for my taste. I found one gas station about $2.55. I mean, that's great compared to Biden, but still, when I hear $1.50 in other states, these gas taxes are utterly ridiculous. And that's why California is still as high as it is as far as its gas tax, as far as its gas prices, I should say, because, again, it's a tax on everybody. Everybody drives cars, basically, and they're trying to move towards this whole thing in New Jersey and California. Only EV vehicles can be sold within state borders by 2025. Good luck with that. And by the way, if I had $1 billion, I would open up car dealerships on the Pennsylvania border, New York border, in a heartbeat if New Jersey is going to do this, because that people aren't going to buy electric vehicles because, I don't know, they're priced out. These things cost $60,000 each on average for like an okay one, not an SUV. You're getting like a four-door sedan. And they're nice cars. I've driven in Teslas. The self-driving thing's a complete, hoot. But still, it's still $60,000 a lot of people don't have. You can't force people to buy these things. And yet while the rest of the country is saying, including Ford Motor Company, is saying, all right, we're not going to concentrate on this as much. We don't like the mandates. People want gas cars, or at least hybrids. Well, in New Jersey and California, they're still going ahead with this. Good luck with that, because there clearly aren't enough chargers around. And again, people can't afford, what is $60,000? Basically, you got to make more than $100,000 before taxes just to buy your car. Screw that. It's nonsense. Anyway, speaking of screw, let's screw Jim Hines and his rhetoric as well. He's a Democrat from Connecticut. I don't know what's going on with Connecticut between him and Chris Murphy, but here's Hines, congressman, saying that, you know what? It's okay if leaks would endanger American service members in the Venezuelan extradition of Nicolas Maduro, because Congress deserved to be known. And even if Congress leaked, which they always do to the press, that's more worth it than American service members actually being killed as a result of those leaks. This is Cut 3. Go.
What, in your view, should the administration have done in dealing with you?
Well, so the leaks argument is crazy, right? First of all,
no,
even if there are leaks, the law says that we have to be involved and consulted on this sort of thing.
Yeah. Even if there are leaks all the time. Adam Schiff literally is a sieve. Eric Swalwell, same thing. Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, if they heard about this mission and they knew it could hurt Trump, they would run to the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, The Atlantic, even the Wall Street Journal, faster than you can say The Atlantic. Trust me. Anyway, it's unbelievable that actually it's not. What am I saying? The Lincoln Project, so you know who these guys are. They say they're these principled conservatives that are here to protect the country from Donald Trump, who's only won, I don't know now, 2 presidential elections, at least. Yet, MS Now, again, MSNBC, we're just going to call him MSNBC. I can't do the now thing. They have on Steve Schmidt, who, when you see him do TV hits from his house, he has a kitchen the size of my entire house here in New Jersey. And you wonder where the money came from exactly, because all this guy has done his entire life is run losing presidential campaigns, including that of John McCain's. But there he was on MSNBC this morning talking about how the United States is now worse than Venezuela. And the idiotic hosts like Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski just nod along with this maniac. This is cut 4. Go.
Way. And I never in a million years thought I would sit here or anywhere and say this. But the difference now between Venezuela and Cuba and the United States is this. Venezuela and Cuba are the countries without internment camps.
We have internment camps? Really? Where can I find these internment camps exactly, Steve? And just so we know about the Lincoln Project, they were able to raise tens of millions of dollars, about $100 million leading up to the 2020 election. And about 70% of that money went to companies that people who ran the Lincoln Project were also owners of. In other words, this was one big grift. People bought into it, and they lined their pockets and got rich for it. Hence the Steve Schmidt kitchen the size of Nancy Pelosi's kind of thing going on when you wonder, like, where the money come from, because obviously he's never actually done anything successful in politics. But yeah, so between him and George Conway and Rick Wilson, all these people getting rich on dumb people who donate to this ridiculous group. And now this absolute idiot saying that the United States is worse than Venezuela because we have internment camps. Again, can we show some evidence around this? Because I'm pretty sure they don't exist. Anyway, you know, Mayor Mamdani lives in a world of sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. This guy believes that the World Cup used to be an event where, you know, the working class could just walk up, get a ticket for $5 and go in and watch the game. Never happened. It is the most sought after ticket in sports, including the Super Bowl, by far. I am sorry. This is capitalism, my friend. Not my friend. My comrade, Mamdani, where you can't just say, I declare that World Cup tickets should be affordable for everybody. No, supply and demand says this is the biggest event in sports globally, by far. All right? 6 billion people tune into the World Cup final. We get about 100 million here in the United States. I don't know what the number is worldwide, but I'm sure it doesn't approach anything approaching the B word in a billion. 6 billion watch the World Cup. Therefore, if you could go to the final, that would be kind of a cool thing. And the final is actually taking place about 20 minutes or so from my house here in New Jersey at MetLife Stadium, which is a horrible stadium, by the way. I can't believe they spent more than $1 billion on that thing. You look at other stadiums, like the Cowboys Stadium or the one in Minnesota or Los Angeles. Good Lord. This thing looks like a big Bose radio. It's ugly. It doesn't really have that many amenities. It sucks. I mean, MetLife is horrible. But we have the World Cup final nonetheless because it's near New York City and it's the biggest stadium around here. So, okay, that's how this works. But Mamdani is saying that he's working to ensure World Cup tickets are available to all, which is odd. And I'll tell you why it's odd after you listen to this soundbite. This is Cut 5. Go.
What we are seeing, I had a New Yorker the other day come up to me and ask me if there was any way I could help him get World Cup tickets because he was saying that the cost that he saw for a game was $600. Right? Yeah. This is increasingly out of reach. We have made what used to be a working class game into a luxury experience. And there are too many for whom it doesn't matter where the World Cup is being played in the world. They know where they're going to watch it. It's TV. And we want to ensure that there are more experiences available to each and every New Yorker.
I think with HDTV, I'd rather watch sports at home than go to a game, quite frankly. Be totally honest with you. But again, at last check, is Zohran Mamdani the mayor of East Rutherford, New Jersey, where MetLife Stadium exists? He's the mayor of New York. what effing say do you have in the cost of tickets when the game's not even being played in your own setting? It's being played in my state, all right? And if you're an elected official in my state, maybe I guess you could have an opinion on this. But who the hell is he, as the mayor of New York, to dictate that certain people should have access to these tickets? I'm sorry. I understand. If you're poor or even middle class or even upper middle class, you're not seeing this game, especially the final, unless you have literally tens of thousands of dollars. That's what it's going to go for, and that's the way it works. No question about it. Anyway, let's leave it with this, shall we, guys? This is Donald Trump. And, again, the guy, he knows his stuff. I'm just going to leave it here. Cut 7, go.
Hey, guys. It's Tampon Tim.
Uh-oh.
I just want to let y'all know I won't be seeking re-election. I got a nice job offer from Tampax, to help them develop male tampons and shit like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that before all this Somali fraud shit blows up in my face and Trump sends in the National Guard in the middle of the night to arrest me and my crazy liberal bitch wife, the one with the crazy eyes.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, we had a good run. Oh, and FYI, Kamala is an alcoholic and she's completely retarded. Toodaloo.
Wow. That's Tim Walz. Boy, that's pretty harsh words. Joe Concha, back tomorrow night. See you then.